I don't know. But there's a lot of theories about this.
There's a saying going on out there that those that are loud about the fact that they're going to kill themselves are typically just looking for attention. Those that do kill themselves, they're really quiet about it. They don't ever mention it to anybody. Nobody would ever realize that they're in the pain that they're in.
True.
And
true. Very true.
Until after it's too late.
Yeah, me thinking she protests too much, that phrase from Shakespeare. And there's something to that. I see Vince in the Bay. I tried to get him to call in tonight, and looks like he's whining again. And I don't know. I don't understand he was so active. And speaking about things like net neutrality, he's supposed to be a defender of free speech, and he's strangely silent. I don't get that. And for people that are listening that don't know who he is, he was a Blog Talk Radio host who got mixed up in the non-world, and it's my opinion that he made very poor choices. So, what were you going to say?
Vince is currently going through a lot of personal issues right now. Despite the fact that a lot of us are trolling him, I really do hope that Vince gets the desperate help that he so obviously needs and gets his life back on track.
Well, I would plead, the trolling of Vince, I think it needs to stop, because I think he is in a precarious situation. And, I think the best thing to do... Go ahead.
It would stop if Vince wasn't antagonizing these trolls. He knows damn good and well what it is that he's doing, and it's really just sad to see a grown man try his damnedest to interact with known trolls, known hackers, and known doxers that essentially don't have anything better to do than to entertain the fact that he is wrecking his life.
Can they not stonewall him, just ignore him, and maybe he'll get back to rebuilding his life? Is that a possibility
really
at all?
Well, yeah, it is possible. However, who are trolls to ever pass up an entertainment moment? I don't know how well it is that you know me or anything. This is the first time I've interacted with you, but I'm actually one of those trolls.
Well, I do like Vince. I want to state that for the record. The last time I heard him speak was on Bill Wagner's show, where I asked him to call in because I was co-hosting. And his voice did not sound the same. I was concerned for him, shocked at what I heard. I was very shocked at what I heard. I was appalled. But the tone in his voice just didn't sound like Vince. It didn't sound like him. I have real concerns for him. So, and I would really like to hear his thoughts on net neutrality, maybe snap him back to reality and be the Vince that he once was, if that's possible. So.
Well, there's a possibility for everything. It's just, the old saying, you've got to be the one to pull your own head out of your ass.
Yeah, and I understand what they're saying in the chat room, but I'm a humanitarian. I cannot talk tonight for the life of me. And I'm not even tipsy. I'm humanitarian, I just have concern. I don't want to see people destroy themselves. I hate seeing that. It hurts to see that. But people have to live with their actions in the same breath, I have to say. But net neutrality was the topic of my show, and I've gone so far away from it. I did really good last night, kept with it the whole time, and I have some concerns. Of course, the senator saying all those different things that he said about net neutrality, Al Franken from Minnesota, I think he's our one hope. I would like to keep things as they are and not more restrictive. Just once you go down that path, once our country goes down that path, it's going to be hard to turn back. You could see the problems with trying to regulate Wall Street. That's not going to happen. I think the same thing is going to happen with the Internet. We're not going to be able to pull back where it's an even playing field for everybody. I see the Internet as it is right now, like there's all these streets and pathways, and I see all these big companies wanting to put toll booths everywhere where you have to stop and pay money to go to the next place. That's concerning to me. I don't want to have to pay for YouTube and Skype, and I do feel like that's going to happen. If the site does not absorb the cost, they have to pass it on to someone, and that someone's going to be me. And then all the restriction, they can decide what will be allowed, what content's going to be allowed on your internet. And there's many different ways to avoid that, like Shadow was saying, many different ways. But really, I can't tell people enough to call their senators, call their representatives, find out where they stand on net neutrality, and then tell them what you would like to see. I would like to see a law protecting net neutrality. Do you think getting a law protecting net neutrality would be helpful, Shadow?
Honestly, I don't think it'll be helpful per se. I mean, ultimately, the companies that are essentially in control of providing internet access to everybody, they have the ultimate say. I mean, granted, the government has the ability to step in and say, you're not allowed to do X, Y, Z. But these companies are well traversed into, circumventing the laws and writing on the fence best as humanly possible in order to gain as much as they possibly can. They've been doing this well before the internet ever existed, though they will continue to do this well after the current version of the internet dies out and evolves into something different.
I hear you. And I guess I should say publicly, if Vince listens to this show, that I'm sorry I spoke about you without you being here because you were not here to defend yourself. So if you listen to the archives, I'm very sorry for speaking about you. It's not my style.
He's listening. Vince is listening right now. He's just unable to call in.
He's listening right now? Well, then he heard what I said. That's not my style. I'm just really concerned for him. I'm very concerned for him. But anyway, net neutrality. My mind's just spinning. I've been reading so many articles and watching videos, and I hear a lot of fear-based videos that, they're going to become socialists and you're not going to be able to talk to anybody. But I do think we will be like some of the Middle Eastern countries. They're not allowed to communicate with the rest of the world because of limitations, that there will be more and more restrictions as we go along. That is my fear, because it's an open road to that with this ruling. Now, Tom Wheeler is the head of the FCC. Currently, he's newly appointed, and the chatter that I hear is that he is not, on the bandwagon to take this to the Supreme Court. And I hope they do take it to the Supreme Court, because then it'll be a landmark case, and all future endeavors by the capitalist movement to hijack the internet, for lack of a better word, will be moot. So, take a look at the chat.
Hopefully it doesn't come down to that.
Just reading some of that. If anybody else wants to call in and voice their thoughts on net neutrality, where they think it should go, or if it should be contained and kept as is, I would be very interested in your thoughts. Again, I had a man that we called Pluto last night. It was very informative, and it gave me a lot of room to think about. Okay, moot. I get it. I don't know why I'm stumbling on. I'm on some new medication. I think it's affecting the way I talk, so maybe that's the reason. Someone was correcting my speech in the chat room. Yeah. The other night, we were talking about Justin Bieber, and I was saying Beaver the whole time, and my daughter just burst out laughing. It was bad. That was really bad.
Yeah, we were discussing him on Rage Radio last Friday.
Yes. And what were you discussing?
But ultimately, the reason why people like him exist is due to poor parenting. Parents weren't just allowing the television to babysit their kids and actually, gave a damn about their kids. They wouldn't turn out to be these entitlement children that just think that everything should be handed to them, and that, they're allowed to party like a rock star 24/7 and just make a complete fool out of themselves.
Mhm. Well, I think Bieber's descent into madness has been going on for about a year and a half, and I went through maybe 10 or 11 milestones that you could see he's slipping further and further into no one can touch me land. I think it's part of parenting too.
It's been known now that he has a codeine addiction due to I believe it's a cough syrup that he's able to get in Canada that is over the counter and contains codeine.
Wow.
And apparently he's adapted a bit of a sweet tooth for that substance and abuses it heavily to the point where he rents a couple Ferraris out and tries to drag race them at 60 miles an hour.
Mhm. Well, he wasn't the wisest where he decided to race because that area is known that there's a lot of racing. There's been a number of deaths, and the police are on that. I mean, it's bigger fines to race in Miami. It's a horrible place to go to as far as the prison, and not that I've been there or the jail. But I mean, he's 19. He's 19. His brain's not fully developed.
Young.
So. Yeah, I think you were on the show when we discussed him the other night, weren't you?
Yeah. He's young. I mean, there's kids that go through that all the time, 19. Like I said, it's just that he has exposure, he has money, so, they're gonna highlight that and put him on TV. But how many kids get caught with in cars, all type of stuff. So, I mean, you're young, you learn, and I'm pretty sure he probably learned, and they're gonna tell him, hey, you're gonna have to slow it down. But, he's young, he's still learning. He's learning from experience, and he has a lot of money, so.
Yeah, I hear you. And he threw his mom underneath the bus saying that, well, Mom gave me those pills,
Well, who knows why he did it, but he's young. Again, he's young. He's young. Not thinking right. He probably was thinking he could get away with it by saying, oh, well, it was legal or whatever. Who knows what he was thinking, but I'm just saying that in general, he's young,
Well,
19.
like last July, I think we discussed he was at a club and there was a bucket to clean the floors with, like a mop bucket. And instead of going to the restroom, he peed into that bucket. And at the end of the urination, he peed on a poster of former President Clinton. And then he had to call the president the next day and apologize. That's not a normal life. I mean, he should be able to goof off and make mistakes.
I think that also has to do with alcohol playing a part to that. So, and then again, he's under 21, but he's drinking alcohol.
19.
So,
he shouldn't have been in the club.
He's drinking. I mean, you could drink in Europe. So, I mean, to every state and country has its own laws and whatever. But, I mean, he's drinking, he's consuming alcohol. But when you're young, you get drunk fast. He has no limit access to whatever he wants to drink. That's another thing, you know what I'm saying? So he could get drunk, and they won't tell him no, and then, you start acting out. But he got to just check himself at the end of the day because he's he's a very, very big artist, and, he got to take that in consideration. He says, look, I can make a fool out of myself, or, I can mature up real quick because, I got a lot on the table, Can't be playing no games like that. You don't want to be a statistic,
Yeah.
He has a lot of talent. Go out there, you have a lot of fans. You got a lot of little girls out there watching you, little boys. You got to set, whether you want to or not, you got to set some type of example, What's going to happen if we got all these young pop artists acting like, crazy? Wow, how the kids are picking it up,
Yeah, I hear you. Shadow, since I have you on here, a question I like to ask people to make sure I've asked everything. Was there a question that I didn't ask you that you wish I had asked you?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. I mean, the ultimate topic of the night was about net neutrality. I mean, I think we covered a great deal about it tonight.
Yes, we did.
I guess if I had to pick, I'd say, what are some things that people can do in order to, protect themselves against this obvious intrusion against our ability to freely express ourselves? And that would be, my answer to that is education. don't just believe the hype about what the courts are saying and what the companies
True.
are saying, what you hear on the internet. Educate yourself. If they do